This week on Angelo's Workbench, a new project gets kicked off. The new Revell 71 Boss 351 Mustang. You guys have seen this all over the internet. We're going to build it here, start to finish. Stick around. Ordinarily, at this point, I would start taking all of the parts out and do an unboxing video. We would talk about all of the decals and everything and how wonderful it all is. However, I've already done that. Video is in the description. I did that a few weeks ago. Go check it out if you want to see everything that is in this box, which is wonderful. Other than that, we're going to get started on this kit right now. One of the key things at this stage is parts management, right? I've got sprues all over the place. There are 129 parts in this kit. And so what I like to do is when I remove the parts from the sprues, or de-spruing as I call it, I have a plastic bin that I got from Hobby Lobby. And I can't remember how much it was, but it has all these individual little compartments that you can use. And then larger compartments. So I use the smaller compartments for the smaller parts, larger compartments for the larger parts. Like there's usually a lot of parts that are like semi-gloss black. So I'll usually use this one for semi-gloss black, and so on. And then you have this top section that can hold a chassis, a frame, larger parts, interior tubs. And then everything can be sealed up in here and ready to go. And I have a couple of these. And of course I have my sticker there. So what I'm going to do first is prepare this to start removing parts from the sprue. So the first thing we got to do is we got to do some labeling, right? And not all the parts are going to get labeled, right? Because there's probably like, if there's like orange in here or turn signal amber, it's usually the turn signals, right? So I'm not going to create one. But I definitely create one for steel, aluminum, semi-gloss black, gloss black, flat black. The main colors that you paint a lot of kits, a lot of parts in the kit that color are definitely, they definitely get a bin, a color slot. And on this one, probably the H, the blue color for the motor, will probably get one. So then, but the first thing, before we get that, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. The first thing I need to do is figure out what is going to be painted the body color. Because can get that process going. I can get the parts in primer and primer curing and get this body cleaned and see, wow, this is really nice. Look at how shiny that is. You could almost just, go with it. So I'm going to scuff this up with a little 600 grit because that's way too shiny for clear coat and paint. And then I'm going to use a gray primer. And then maybe a white primer over that. My color, I just got the touch-up paint. My color, I am doing Grabber Blue, which is marvelous. Grabber Blue and Silver. I will use the silver accents with the Grabber Blue. I knew I wanted the silver accents, so then I had different color options. It limits how many different colors you could go with. Because I do want to try to build this correct. So I'm not going to go crazy and do, oh my god, that steering wheel shouldn't be that shade. I'm not going that nuts. But Grabber Blue was a color, so I got some Grabber Blue paint. And we'll do the silver and the silver decals. And we're going to have a good time with this. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, but first thing I need to do is figure out what parts are body color. So what I'm looking for is right here. They have white gloss F. Okay, so when I go through here, and I'll start at the back because that's usually where they all are. Whatever parts say F on them are body color. So for example, here, all around the outer edge of the hood is that body color. And then the center of the hood, they have B for black, right? Because they're giving you the color scheme for this. So where this one is B for black, some of those spots will be silver for me because we're going with the silver variant. But I still need that outer edge of the hood body color. So let's track down the hood. So I have tracked down the hood, and it is on a nice nice sprue, and I might just leave it there and then touch up that edge after I'm done with the paint and the clear. So I might just leave that on there. So we'll put that aside. This, obviously, duh, right? Body color. It is the body. So now let's have a look through and see what else we find. I think the only other thing I'm going to see is maybe parts of the body that go in the front and the rear, and side view mirrors. So looking here, I see, oh, look, there's that F again. The F color call out is right there. So side view mirrors. So the side view mirrors are also going to have to be painted. And they are wonderful. They have mounted them to the sprues at a spot that attaches to the car. So I would be able to leave those attached, maybe. So let me, what I will do is I will just cut this for now. I don't know if it'll stay this way, but I will just cut those off for now that way and leave those on there, because I am also maybe going to pin them. They look awfully small and dainty for a pin, so I might not be able to pin those. But anyway, they are going to be body color, so I will put them aside. These guys get all painted all black, from what I understand. Let's see here. Yeah, there's no F on that. There's B, so the whole thing is black, and then around the headlights is silver. I will double check that with some color reference. This part here is called out to be black. I'm going to say that is most likely silver on mine, because I'm doing the silver version. So I'm going to put that aside for now. And again, I'm going to double check this with a little bit of photo research. This guy right here is going to be F. Right, because he's called out as F in the instructions, which means he needs to be, in my case, grabber blue. And it does look like, according to the instructions, that the chassis has to be mounted onto the body before this gets glued. So this will have to be done after paint and clear. And then the back section is going to end up being silver on my version. So now I'm just looking for some more Fs to see if there's any more. These guys are all the silver, the side view mirrors we got already. Now let's see here. What else is there? I don't have... They're just calling the body out. Yeah, we knew that already. This is all black or silver. Don't see anything. I'm just looking for all the color call-outs. Looking for anything that is gloss white. That would be the body color. There might be some on the firewall. It does not appear so. The engine compartment appears to be black. The undercarriage appears to also be black, according to the callouts. Now, I know I watched a lot of builders online who have done this, and they have done this rusty red color, this red primer color, because that was the way they were from the factory. And I may try to duplicate that. The doors, the interior is all black. I don't see any body color on the doors, the dashboard, or anything like that. And then there's no body color on the motor. So I will double check what we have just discussed with some research on the internet. But it looks like the only parts that we need to worry about for body color is the body, the hood, the side view mirrors, and the lower rear fascia. That goes like this. After you, it probably attaches to the rear section. It probably attaches to that. But that is also body color. What I'm not sure about is I'm not sure about this. I want to see this on the car. So I'm going to do a little photo research. on my Grabber blue and silver version. There's a couple that have sold recently online, and I will check those out right now, and I will let you know how we make out. Then I'm going to put on some YouTube channels, and I'm going to take all the parts off of the sprues, and I'll come back, and I'll show you when we are done with that. Well, I'm glad I did my photo research. Turns out this little guy here that goes in the bottom of the back, he will be silver. So we'll put him aside. The entire bottom of the car is silver, and that's why the lower front fascia is silver, as well as that little chin spoiler that goes in the front is silver. And you can see that here on their example here. Theirs is black because they did the black. Mine will be silver. And they don't have a rear view of... Oh, they do have a rear view. Look, and the bottom is black. So then that would mean that this color call out for that to be gloss white is incorrect in the instructions. That should be the color of your accent color. That should not be called out for F gloss white. So, good important point. I'm going to start labeling these. So, I like to take the instructions and find the color list and figure out what they call everything. So, they call aluminum A. So anything that is labeled A in the instructions goes to be aluminum. So if I do a little cross-reference on my little blue tape here, and then I label my bin accordingly, when I'm going through the instructions and removing the parts from the sprues, it's very easy for me to tell what is what. B is semi-gloss black. C is silver. D is anthracite matte. So we'll call that a gray. Matte. E is iron. And I don't know how many parts are going to be that. G is red gloss. H is the engine blue. So I'll just put blue. And then I got I, that's gold metallic, clear orange, clear red. Flat black is L. And I have an M, which is wood brown. There's probably some interior components. That'll be detail painting. That won't be main part painting. And in fact, yeah, I just found it's the rim of the steering wheel. So sometimes you have that color call out and there's one thing that gets the color. And then this iron, which is E, they're doing the heads and stuff that color. So I may convert that to steel. We'll see what happens. I'll check my paint stash. So those are the main ones that I'm going to call out. So I'll now take my razor blade and I'll cut my little pieces of tape. And then I'll attach them to the bins in my parts holder. And I'll get started removing parts from the sprues. I'll bring you back when I've got something to show you. One other thing that I'm going to do before I get started on that, so that I don't get confused and use wrong, incorrect parts, their parts call out tells you parts that are not used. So for example, these two lights, I guess they aren't used. So I'm going to take those right off of the clear sprue so that there's no confusion, and I will put these away somewhere. And then I'm going to look through the remaining part sprues and see what other parts that I'm not using. And in here on the chrome sprue, according to this part right here, number 57, does not get used. So I'm going to cut little number 57 off. And I'll put it in a safe place just in case there's an error in the instructions. I'll put them into one of the bins that'll be unmarked, just in case. And then we have this sprue right here. It says that of the two, their radiator shrouds, this one here on the left is not used. So I will cut that off. And as I said, I will put it aside just in case there is an error in the instructions. I'm not going to just dispose of it. There also is a part right here. I don't know what that is, but it says that we don't need it. Maybe it is some kind of license plate holder. I don't know what that is. But anyway, it goes in the bin with the parts that we are not going to use. And then, so that is now gone. That is now gone. That one is gone. There's no parts here. There's no parts here. There's no parts anywhere else that are not used. So, those parts are gone. They've been removed. Everything else gets used. I'm going to start de-spruing, put some YouTube videos on, and get to work. One of my favorite parts is gluing the engine together. I do this in the beginning. I think a lot of guys do. Partially because it's so much fun, but then I think partially because it makes a lot of sense. Why paint these pieces as individual pieces when you can paint them as one unit and get a better result? So that is exactly what I am doing. I am going to glue these two halves together, and I gotta tell you, this kit assembles just beautifully. And then there were two heads here, 105 and 106, so that I could tell which was which. There's an easy way to tell. There's actually engraving on the leading edge, the part that faces forward. But then just to be certain, I made a mark on the inside with a marker for number 106. And number 106 goes on this side here. So now I can just run a bead down that. And then I can put number 105 in, and I can run a bead down that. And there you go. I love the Tamiya extra thin glue. It holds so quickly. So then the heads have been installed. The oil pan I am going to leave off for now, so that I can get in there and do some better detail painting on the bell housing here and stuff. I'm not going to glue that yet, but that it will get painted blue. So the other thing, the valve covers, according to this, they get painted aluminum color. And there is an incorrect color call out that I know from watching my buddy Revell's channel over at Muscle Car Modeler. He had said that the color call out for the intake manifold being blue is incorrect. And I have verified that with some photo references. That should, in fact, be aluminum. So I am going to learn from others' research, and I am going to not paint that blue. I will paint it aluminum. But this guy gets blue, so we can just put a little glue in there. And everything fits so nicely. Like, if this entire kit fits together as nicely as this is fitting together, this is going to be a lot of fun. Awesome kit. And then there's no doubt that you're going to get that water pump in the right place because it is pinned. Which is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen one like that before. So then that is good. That is good. These guys are glued. So we've got as many parts glued as we can. I'm going to continue removing parts from the sprues and putting them in the appropriate bins. And then I'll bring you back. I have removed all of the parts from the sprues and grouped them according to color. I have everything ready to go and be painted. They have been removed from the sprues and sanded and cleaned and are ready to go. The engine was assembled as we did, and then little things like the seats being glued together was also completed. So now I'm preparing the body for paint. And one of the things they include that's handy is they include what they call a one-to-one hood paint template. However, the one-to-one is a little bit lacking. As you can see here, there is a little bit of a size difference between the hood and the picture. However, they give you the dimensions, 3.8 millimeters all the way around. I will mask that accordingly when the time comes. The only parts that have to be grabber blue in my example is the body, the hood, and these mirrors. I did end up removing the mirrors from the sprues because I wasn't going to be able, the way the sprues mount, it is mostly on the bottom, but it does lap over onto the side. I also discovered mold line seams on the mirrors that had to be sanded, and it was just easier to take them off the sprue. So now I've got it off the sprue, so how am I going to paint it? What I do with side view mirrors is I use sticky tack or silly putty or whatever you want to call it. I'll roll some out, and then I'll take my knife and I will cut a little tiny piece off. And then I will take this little tiny piece and I will put it in the hole where the mirror goes. And you have to use very little, because if you use too much, then obviously the sticky tack laps out into over the edges of the mirror and covers areas where you have to paint. So if you stick it good enough and then you stick your toothpick in, you can work with this as a paint holder, right? Now I have just a little bit too much sticky tack, believe it or not. And then after it's painted and cleared, you just pull the sticky tack out. And then the only part that is not painted is the center where you're going to glue glass in anyway. So the mirror, or the piece of chrome that replicates the mirror, hides the part that you did not paint. So there, now I have less sticky tack. And the other thing that can happen too is if you're left with a little bit of an uneven line around the edge, which I try not to, but if you are, a lot of mirrors have a little black trim piece that goes around where the glass is. So if I end up with a little piece of bare white plastic that's exposed after I put the glass in, I'll just take my Sharpie, my black Sharpie, and run a little tiny line along the edge. And that conceals that and leaves a pretty good looking resemblance of what a mirror would look like. So there's that mirror ready to go and be painted. And if you stick it well enough, which I think I have, the airbrush won't blow it off. But just in case, be ready to catch this little guy if he flies off the toothpick in your spray booth. So those are the parts that are going to be grabber blue. The rest of these body parts here, I have drilled the hole for the spoiler, and I have mounted the spoiler holder there. But the spoiler on this car will be silver, so that does not go here. The front air dam, which is nice, I've also glued those pieces together already. And this car is going to look so amazing. I love this Mustang. And I just realized, watching the round 2 video for the December releases this morning, that car that they have in the beginning is a grabber blue and silver 71 Mustang. Like, it's kind of funny. I wonder if, I secretly wonder if the guy who's in round 2, I assume it's one of their executives or something, or somebody who has that car. I wonder if they bought the Revell kit and built it. I'm just kind of curious. But what a beautiful Mustang that is. And grabber blue and silver is a killer combo. I'm really looking forward to this. So this part I've glued together already is going to be silver and will be hiding out on the bottom. This also will be silver and hiding out in the back. And this will also be silver and in the back. So all of that stuff can be set aside for now, because we are just doing the grabber blue parts at this moment. And we're going to get started. And when I bring you back, we will be in the spray booth. Welcome back to the spray booth, my friends. I am starting with the Stynel Res in gray. This is my go-to primer. I like it. It lays down a nice smooth coat. And we're going to get started right away with all of the parts. So I'm going to start with the mirrors. We'll get those out of the way first. I've mounted them on toothpicks, a little trick that I just showed you. And so I'm coming in here, just a little spray with my airbrush brush. We don't need a very heavy coat of primer, just a little tiny bit. There we go. And I like to use gray first on white plastic because it enables me to see very easily how much I've coated it, how heavy the coat is, where I've covered. I like contrasting colors. And then if I'm using a bright color, which I think the Grabber Blue is a bright color, I will go over the gray primer with a white primer, my next coat. Some people call that a glide coat. I like the contrasting color because it helps me be able to see, like I said, where I've sprayed, where I've left off, where I haven't sprayed. And it's the same thing here. So the hoods, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the edges. And I've just mounted it to an old spray paint can with some painter's tape that I've flipped over on itself. Then we'll just... I really like that the holes are molded open on this hood. This kit is really fantastic. And I'm just going from all the directions, making sure that I get a nice even coat of primer. And there, that's done. And we can set that aside. And it'll usually, the primer usually comes up with a little bit of a texture. So I'll usually give it just like a light sand after with like 1,000 grit. And then I will go over it again with white, as I said, and then I'll give that 1,000 grit sand as well. And then we'll hit it with the Grabber Blue. That's my plan. So I always like to get the bottom edges first, so that I'm sure that I don't miss anything. There we have it. Back. And now I'll do around the windows, the under the hood area. Just so I know I'm not missing any spots. And then around these windows here. I haven't looked up what color the trim is around the windows yet. If it is in fact a black or a chrome trim. I'll have to look at that. Either way, it will be easy to do on this car. The molding is very crisp. I haven't deepened the panel lines yet. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to. I looked at the panel lines, and I wanted to get a coat of primer on first because I couldn't really tell with the white plastic. In bare plastic, it's really hard to tell what you're looking at. You get a nice coat of gray primer on it, you can see. And the panel lines look good to me. They don't look like they need to be deepened. So I may just leave them be and go right ahead with our paint and clear coat. An all-new tool, you would expect, you know, the panel lines to be nice and crisp, and they sure are. And I managed to get a hair right in that trunk. And that always happens, and it never happens on the side. It's always the flat surface that gets the hair or imperfection. But you know what? That's okay. The flat surfaces are the easiest to clean and straighten out. And I will be giving this a wet sand anyway. As I said, this primer usually comes up with just a little bit of a texture, the way it cures. But I'm going to put some primer on there, on the flat surfaces. I'll go over a couple of times to make sure I have enough to work with, to sand it back and not go back to the bare plastic. That looks really good. So, there is the primer coat on the Mustang. For the gray primer, I'm going to give it a light sanding and then a coat of white, and then we will go from there. Stay tuned. After looking at the Mustang in the gray primer, I did decide to deepen the panel line slightly, and so I have done that. And what I am doing now is I am back in the spray booth, and I am about to spray my Stynal Res white primer, which is my go-to primer, the gray and the white. I like to use. They actually make a black too, which is pretty good. But let's see here. Help if I turn the airbrush on. Give it a little test spray. There we go. again, you don't need a lot of primer, just a little bit. You don't even have to get uniform coverage on the first coat. You can go back in with a second coat after, which is what I will do. Just to make sure that I didn't miss any spots and that the entire part is primed nice and ready for that Grabber Blue paint. The Grabber Blue paint that I'm using is an automotive touch-up paint. I believe it to be lacquer-based. I bought it online. So I need to make sure that I protect the plastic with this primer so that the paint doesn't attack the plastic. So I need to make sure that I get full coverage because this paint is probably hot enough, and when I say hot, I'm not talking about temperature, I'm talking about chemical reaction. This paint is probably hot enough to craze the plastic and attack the plastic, so we don't want that. So we're just going to make sure that we get adequate coverage with our primer to protect our plastic. And there we go. We'll just let that cure. And I will probably do 2 coats of the white primer. And I'm just doing all my edges first, which is what I always do. There we go. And I'll go with the back. And I'll go with the front. I love the Tamiya paint stand. I've had it for so long. And I get a lot of questions on this paint stand. And this is just a Tamiya generic paint stand, and it's available everywhere that they sell model stuff. I've even seen it on Amazon, eBay, and all kinds of places. Just about any kind of hobby shop. I've seen it in Hobby Lobby. Maya paint stand. It's a good product. Oh, I just ran out of primer. One nice thing about the Stynylrez primer is it's ready mixed, ready to go, and in the bottle. So when you run out, you just, hey, guess what? I'm just going to put a little more in the airbrush, and that's it. I am ready to go again. I like having paints pre-mixed like that so that I can just go right back to what I was doing. Remember where I left off. I don't have to stop and go mix paint. Just want to get some even coverage on that roof. There we go. And you can see my panel lines are a little bit more pronounced now than they were before. And I do plan on painting the inside of the car. The roof has some nice detail. So I'm going to shoot some primer up there to protect that plastic in case the blue gets on there. I don't have it eating plastic on the inside of the body. Okay, we'll let that cure. I'll probably come back in with a second coat off camera. But this is ready to be blue. So now I'm going to mix up this Grabber Blue. I don't know what this is, and I've been shaking it a lot, but I don't know what this is. I think it smells like a lacquer-based, but I don't know for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set that aside like that, and I'm going to stir this a little bit. It's kind of thick. It does have a mixing ball in it. And this is very well stirred. And it is a little bit on the thick side. So I'm just going to mix some up here. And I think that that's enough to start out with. And again, I don't know what this is. So this is kind of a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to attempt to thin it with lacquer thinner first. I'm going to put a little bit of lacquer thinner in. And if the lacquer thinner blends in with the paint and thins it, then I know I have a paint that I can use lacquer thinner as a thinner, and it appears that I do. So I'm going to add a little bit more. And that looks good. I think I've put just a little too much in the way of thinner in. So I'm going to get a little bit more paint in there. Typically use almost a full one of these to paint a car. So that looks good. It's about the consistency of what I like. So my experiment has been successful. I successfully thinned it with lacquer thinner, which is good. So now we'll go to the spray booth and spray some blue. So we're in the booth. I've got the blue mixed up. We're gonna focus on these mirrors first. See how this sprays out. I'm not liking how it's spraying. It's a little bit on the thick side. So I think I'm going to thin it a little bit more. But I might as well just get these mirrors done. There we go, the mirrors are done. And I'm going to go and thin this paint a bit more, and then come back and spray the body and the hood. Okay, that seems to be spraying a little better. So let's go ahead and just get the edges of my hood. I also want the underside of the hood a little bit. There we go. There we go. This stuff likes to go on thick. That looks marvelous. I've got a little something in the paint right there. That'll be fished out and sanded back when the time comes. Okay, let's see how we do with the body. Alright, that's coming out good. And I'll do 2 coats just to be sure I get full coverage. That looks good. Wow, I love grabber blue. Grabber blue is awesome paint. What an awesome color. And I don't know, like this was just some random touch-up paint I found on eBay. This stuff sprays great once you get the right consistency. It took me a few tries to get the right consistency. But this stuff sprays great. just looks awesome. Whoop, just ran out of paint. Time for another little mix it up a little bit. Give myself another little batch here. Wow, Grabber Blue is fantastic color. I actually owned a Mustang in Grabber Blue. It was a 2011. And it had white stripes on it instead of silver like this one is going to have. Whoa, that was not good. This paint stand came apart. Did the car touch? Yes, it did. Right there. And it happens to everybody. The car touched the bottom. So I'm done putting paint on for now, because I'm going to have to let that gas out. And then I'm going to have to touch up that corner. I'm going to have to clean that corner off. And that's because my paint stand came apart. That was rather unusual. It doesn't usually do that. So I've pushed it back together again a little bit stronger. And it's about time. I had put enough paint on that anyway. So we'll let those items gas out and cure. And then I'll come in with coat number 2. Off camera, I applied coat number 2, and it came out marvelously. Now it's just going to gas out, and we will be able to go in with the silver and the clear coat, and we will kick that off for next week. So go ahead and like, share, comment, subscribe. All of that helps me. Thank you so very much. Also, don't forget to check me out on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all under the name Angelo's Workbench. I really appreciate your comments and your shares and your views. This is why I do this channel. I look forward to seeing you all next week for video number 2 on this awesome Mustang.